I've been working the night shift at a gas station off Highway 16 for nearly 2 years now. It's not the worst job, but it sure isn't glamorous either. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead, the coolers hum non-stop, and the coffee machine drips like a slow, steady clock, marking the passage of time in a place where nothing really changes. The pay is just enough to keep me afloat, and the solitude means I rarely have to deal with my boss breathing down my neck. But working the graveyard shift, that's something else entirely. The world is different after midnight. The people who pass through are different. They move differently, talk differently, watch you differently. Some are just tired travelers, truckers looking for caffeine, or late-night wanderers needing a fill-up. But others belong to the night in a way that makes your skin crawl. You see things, people, the kind that don't seem quite right, the kind that linger too long, that watch too closely, that make you question if you should have picked another job. And sometimes, you wish you never saw them at all. The gas station is small, one of those rundown places with flickering neon lights, peeling paint on the walls, and a single row of outdated pumps that look like they belong in a forgotten decade. The asphalt in the parking lot is cracked, littered with faded tire marks and the occasional piece of trash that the wind never quite manages to sweep away. The dim glow from the station's sign barely reaches the highway, a beacon for the few travelers passing through in the dead of night. I work alone most nights, just me and the hum of the old refrigerators keeping expired sandwiches and soda cold. The air inside smells like stale coffee and motor oil, a scent that clings to my uniform no matter how many times I wash it. The only sounds are the occasional pop of the cooling system, the slow drip of the coffee machine, and the dull static of an old radio playing some late-night talk show. Tonight was slow. No cars in sight, no customers, since a trucker bought a coffee an hour ago and disappeared into the darkness. I leaned against the counter, scrolling through my phone, the glow of the screen reflecting in the smudged glass of the counter display case. The buzzing of the overhead lights seemed louder in the silence, an electric hum filling the empty space. Then, the bell above the door chimed. The sound was sharp, cutting through the stillness, and for some reason it made my stomach twist. I looked up, expecting another trucker, maybe some local passing through. Instead, a man stepped inside, tall, thin, wearing a jacket too heavy for the warm night. His face was pale under the fluorescent light, his dark eyes locked onto me the moment he entered. Something about him put me on edge. He didn't head toward the shelves, didn't even glance at the coolers. He just walked straight to the counter. "You work alone?" he asked. His voice was low, too calm. I forced a polite smile. "Yep, just me. What can I get you?" He didn't answer, just stood there, watching me. Then, after what felt like too long, he finally said, "Just looking," and walked toward the back of the store. Something about him made my skin crawl. Customers come and go, sure, but no one just hangs around in a gas station in the middle of the night. I watched him from the corner of my eye as he slowly wandered the aisles, fingers trailing over candy bars, bags of chips, but he never picked anything up. The way he moved, it wasn't casual, it was deliberate, like he was waiting. Then he disappeared behind the shelves. I didn't like that. I reached under the counter and wrapped my fingers around the cool handle of the baseball bat we kept for emergencies. Something told me I was going to need it. I leaned over the counter to get a better view, scanning the aisles. He was gone. For a second, I thought maybe he had left without me noticing. But then, click, the faint sound of the back door unlocking. My stomach dropped. That door was supposed to stay locked. Only employees had access to it. I grabbed the bat and stepped out from behind the counter, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Hey," I called out. "You can't be back there." Silence. Then, footsteps. Slow, steady, coming toward me. I gripped the bat tight, every muscle in my body on edge. The footsteps stopped just before the shelves. Then he stepped out. Only it wasn't just him anymore. Another man stood beside him. I hadn't seen anyone else enter. I was sure of it. My pulse thundered in my ears. "Store's closed," I said, my voice steady despite the fear creeping up my spine. "You both need to leave." Neither of them moved. Then the first man smiled. "Too wide, too unnatural. I think we'll stay." I inched back toward the counter, my fingers blindly searching for my phone. I kept my eyes locked on them, heart racing. "I'm calling the cops," I warned. The second man finally spoke. "No need for that." And then, the power cut out. The store went pitch black. I didn't wait. I bolted. Fumbling in the dark, I ran straight for the front door, shoving through it so hard the bell nearly snapped off. The warm night air hit me like a wall, but I didn't stop. I sprinted toward the road, looking over my shoulder. The store remained dark, no sign of them. Then, as I reached my car, I saw it, a third man, standing at the edge of the parking lot, watching, waiting. I jumped into my car, locking the doors, fumbling to start the engine. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the keys. When the engine roared to life, I slammed the car into drive and tore out of the lot, gravel spraying beneath my tires. I didn't stop until I reached a police station 20 miles away. The cops checked the gas station. Nothing. No sign of forced entry. No security footage. Someone had cut the wires. The cameras went black right before the power went out. The back door? Still locked. But I know what I saw. I know they were in there, and I know they were waiting for something. This happened about 6 months ago. I was on my way home from work, a late shift at the office, exhausted and ready to crash into bed. My gas tank was running low, and I knew I wouldn't make it home without stopping. The gas station I pulled into was one of those 24-hour places, sitting on the edge of town. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a pale glow over the cracked pavement. The convenience store attached to it had bars over the windows, and inside, I could see a bored-looking cashier scrolling on his phone. There were only 2 other cars at the pumps. One was a beat-up old truck, the kind you see in horror movies, rust eating through the doors. The other was a black sedan, sleek but covered in dust, parked a little too far from the pumps, like it didn't belong there. I stepped out of my car, swiping my card at the pump, the night air still warm from the day's heat. The moment I started fueling up, I noticed them. 3 men standing near the convenience store just outside the glow of the lights, watching me. At first, I tried to ignore them. Maybe they were just waiting for someone inside. Maybe they were just loitering. But their eyes didn't move away from me. One of them, a tall guy with a shaved head and a hoodie despite the heat, whispered something to the others. They laughed, but it wasn't the kind of laughter that made you feel at ease. It was sharp, deliberate, meant to be heard. I kept my back to them, staring at the gas pump, willing it to hurry up. My hands tightened around the nozzle as I pretended not to notice them shifting closer, inch by inch. Then, the automatic shutoff clicked. I had never put a gas cap on so fast in my life. I moved toward my car, trying to act normal, trying not to let them see the way my pulse was hammering in my throat. That's when one of them spoke. "Nice car," one of them said. I didn't answer. "Where are you headed?" another one asked. Still, I ignored them. I got into my car, locked the doors the second I was inside, and started the engine. I expected them to move on, to walk away. But they didn't. They just stood there, grinning. And then, one of them pulled out his phone and took a picture of my license plate. I pulled out of the gas station fast, my heart racing, my hands gripping the wheel tighter than they should have been. I kept glancing at my mirrors, trying to shake the unease creeping up my spine. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe they were just another group of guys heading home after a long day. At first, it seemed fine. Just another empty road leading out of town. Nothing but the distant glow of streetlights shrinking in my rearview mirror. The radio played softly, but I barely heard it over the sound of my own breathing. Then, I saw the headlights. A car pulled out of the station. At first, it kept a decent distance, far enough that I might have dismissed it as coincidence. But as the minutes stretched on, it became clear. This wasn't random. They weren't tailgating, weren't trying to pass. They were just there, shadowing my every move, keeping their speed matched with mine as if waiting for something. The black sedan, my stomach twisted into a knot. This wasn't a coincidence. This was deliberate. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe they just happened to be going the same way. Maybe I was overthinking it. But the feeling in my gut told me otherwise. I kept glancing at my mirrors, watching their headlights linger, never falling too far behind, never getting too close. It was deliberate. Every turn I made, every lane change, every stoplight, they matched me perfectly. No hesitation. I wasn't going to lead them home. I made a sharp right onto a side street, then another. My heartbeat pounded in my ears as I took another unexpected turn, hoping they'd keep straight, hoping they'd prove me wrong. But they didn't. So did they. By now, my hands were slick with sweat against the wheel. My breathing had become shallow, controlled, as if trying not to make a sound. My brain was firing through every possible scenario. Was this a carjacking, a robbery, or something far worse? I couldn't afford to find out. I made a snap decision. I turned onto a well-lit road that led to a strip mall. I wasn't going to stop in some dark, empty neighborhood. If something was going to happen, I wanted witnesses. I pulled into the parking lot fast, coming to a stop near a row of parked cars outside a 24-hour diner. A few people were inside, and the sight of them gave me a sliver of relief. Then I waited. The black sedan slowed. I watched as it hesitated at the entrance to the parking lot, and then it kept going. I sat in my car for a long time, watching the road, waiting to see if they'd turn back. They didn't. Eventually, I got out, went into the diner, and ordered a coffee I didn't even drink. I just needed time to breathe, but my hands were still shaking, and I still didn't go home for another hour, just to be sure. I never found out who they were. I don't know if they were just messing with me or if it was something worse. All I know is that they knew my license plate, and that's enough to keep me looking over my shoulder every time I stop for gas at night. I don't stop at gas stations late anymore, and neither should you.